Yo, 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 guys, what is up? And welcome back to another episode of the Warriors Invitational. It's your boy Gotham with my boy Chuck. Chuck, sir, welcome back, brother. How we doing, man? Season in full swing, Warriors 2-0. What a start, man. How you doing, Chuck?
Whew. Oh, it's a beautiful day. The sun is out. The birds are singing. Steph Curry's cooking again. Warriors are undefeated. Man, back to back wins over some teams that they're gonna have to measure up against all season long. Like it feels good. It feels good. How about you?
Been good, man. Down here and we're both in cities that the Warriors beat teams in. I'm in LA, Chuck's in Denver, and Warriors just kind of going on a little tour here. But been good, man. Warriors season in full swing. Excited to get into it. Matt, we miss you on this one, dude. We have all the takes that we'll get out on here, but Chuckster, man, like you said, 2-0. Warriors get the season off started right with two. Pretty convincing wins. Or convincing in the sense of like, they look legit, man. Opening night against the Lakers, 119-109. Against Luca, Austin Reeves, obviously no LeBron that night, but Warriors go down to LA, take the dub, and then flip it around with a day in between, back home in the home opener against the Denver Nuggets, who coming into the season, arguably one of the best, if not the top two teams in the West roster-wise. Great summer, and just really an early season classic in a 137, 131 overtime win. Steph with 42, Aaron Gordon with 50. Man, just a real fun start to this NBA season. But give me your thoughts, dude. What were your thoughts just watching those first two games, and kind of your coming into the season, me, Matt, a lot of Warriors fans. There was a lot of hope, of what this team would look like, building off of, the momentum of last season. Obviously, with the season ending the way it did, with Steph getting hurt and obviously not being able to win a game without him. But you felt like just going into the offseason that this team with the right moves and the right pieces around could have a chance to do something special this year. And the first two games so far. What are your thoughts here, Chuck? How we feeling?
Yeah, I think before getting into the Warriors side of it all, I think it was very odd seeing like inverse performances from both teams that they faced. The Lakers, it's like, well, Luca looks insane offensively. I mean, he definitely, it's not just a trick of the camera. Like the guy looks slimmed down. He was just cooking offensively. Um, and he was also basically like the only good thing he had going for the Lakers. It's like, well, Aiton stinks, and why is Gabe Vincent starting? And Austin Reeves clearly can't be a number two. Not that he has to be with LeBron coming back eventually, but Lakers fans love to gas him up, and he's just not really the guy. Jared Vanderbilt, DeAndre Ayton, like I mean, it's just like they got so many rough players that have to play in the rotation. I think Marcus Smart was like I think their only player with like a positive plus minus, and he spent like all of his minutes just like falling around, like comically flopping. So that one made me feel good because I was like, all right, not only did we survive like monster Luca game, but like it's good to just like take a look over at your rivals and be like, oh, you guys are
Not that
maybe gonna stink. Yeah, like not
good.
very good. Um, so that's always good to see. Nuggets was crazy because it was not. I mean, it's wild saying like I mean Jokic had like I think like a 20 something point triple double and like didn't look that
Not a good
good. I
game.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like they just picked on him down the stretch defensively. I think he shot like 2 of 13 from three. He's kind of just like chucking, looked a little gassed. So I think he was just kind of like hoisting threes just to save his legs. But yeah, Aaron Gordon having I think it was like the highest true shooting percentage anyone has ever had in a 50-point game.
That adds
Like,
up, man.
yeah, like the
Checks out.
most efficient. It was I mean, he was like 8 or 8 of 9 or 9 for 9 from
Like
three to
nine for
start.
nine.
Um, and not to take away from him, but like the Warriors just like continue to just leave him wide open, even though he was like just making everything. So that was crazy. Like Jamal Murray looked good. Christian Brown still a good defender. Like their bench looked solid. Like everything about that Nuggets team looked pretty good, except for Jokic, where he kind of like made the defense fall apart a little bit.
Looked a little out of shape too. I mean, obviously game one for them, but still, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, yeah, it was worth keeping an eye on, but that was that was a good win too because I think we were talking a little about this last night. The Warriors objectively like did not play a very good game against the Nuggets. Like they were pretty sloppy in transition. They had a lot of guys like passing out of easy looks at the rim. Like the defense wasn't always that crisp. The leaving, like there was the one possession that really stood out where it was like I don't want to pick on him because he's playing really well, but like Aaron Gordon was already like 6 of 6 from three, and like Jokic gives him a handoff, and like Jonathan Kuminga went under the screen,
Mm-mm.
and yeah, Gordon just splash. There's 7 for 7. I was just like, oh, we gotta like, come on. I'm like, let's
Yeah.
lock in a little bit. Like this guy's hitting everything. You can't be going under right now. Uh, I think that was the good thing is, when you go back to just a year ago today, where it was like the Warriors can't be making those mistakes, and they need Steph to go crazy to win. And obviously Steph went insane, like just had another crazy scoring night, completely bailed them out down the stretch. But the Warriors would have had like no shot in this game if they played that kind of game mentally last year. And I think it just goes to show it's like when you have Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, you have all these like role players. You have guys like Kuminga stepping up in a big way. Just like the floor that they have because of their talent is what's really standing out to me right now. Like their margin for error is so much bigger than it was last season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, kind of just building off of that, man. Like for two really good wins, like you said, against teams that Lakers will obviously we'll see, but in a deep Western Conference, any kind of wins against the West and whenever you can get them are going to be huge. But that Nuggets game yesterday, man, really stuck out to me because that's a game that they probably lose last year and probably lose most of the last couple of years. With Steph going off, with Aaron Gordon's magnet ball, Jamal Murray had 25 points. Like you said, Jokic had a 21-point triple double. So they got a really pretty good Nuggets game, for all things considered. And to kind of weather the storm, they were down by 14 at one point, just kind of chipped away and really just the depth and the flexibility of this roster, man. Like guys, we got to give Kuminga his credit. We've been hard on him all last year, this summer. But from what I've seen in the preseason and so far in the first two games, just the playmaking, the rebounding, he's confident and he's really just, it seems like he's letting the game come to him and not rushing, which, has been a huge change in just kind of his impact on the floor. And you get rewarded for it by finishing last night with the Unks, with Horford, Butler, Draymond, and Steph. So, guys like Kuminga stepping up, like Will Richard, man, he's been a fantastic, get at the 56 spot. I know there's a lot of comparison to Jordan Poole. He's got that same like hairstyle that Poole had back in the day. But just like another 3-and-D guy that, is going to work his way into the rotation. Just the stones to get that loose ball, pull up on a transition three when he'd miss, I think, two or three threes before that. And then you see guys like Horford coming in, stepping up, playing big minutes, and just seeing like how many different ways this team can defend, can attack you offensively. And then obviously when you have Steph and Jimmy on the floor, you like your chances any given night. And last night, obviously, with I think Steph outscored the Nuggets in the fourth quarter or something like that was the stat. But overall, like you said, it just kind of reinforced that belief of, hey, this team, the momentum last year was real. Obviously, again, health is going to be the biggest question here, but any given night, you like your chances if you've got 30 and number 10 on your side. Draymond looked fantastic defensively and offensively yesterday. So, overall, just a great start. Let me ask you this, Chuck, because you and I and I guess Matt too, but like for us two here, like we've been pretty vocal about, the Warriors coming into the season looking good. Like I think we've been on the same page of like, hey, this team has a shot this year. What have you seen so far, and what do you want to see kind of going in as these next few games the season really starts to get underway here? Like, what are you looking for in this Warriors team that maybe you haven't seen yet, or you've seen and want to continue to kind of build off of so far from the first two games?
Yeah, well, I want to see. Well, the main thing I want to see is how does the rest of this rotation get ironed out? Because I don't want to take things for granted already, but it looks like Draymond has the right personnel to insulate him. With like Jimmy Butler can take a lot of the defensive burden away from him and allow him to, move around at will and do different things. Um, Steph obviously doesn't have to carry the whole offense anymore because Jimmy Butler's there. So because like your two most important players are getting so well balanced by Jimmy, to my mind, it moves to the rotation. And there's things like Kuminga is coming out of the gate, like doing all the role player stuff, whether it's development or just like restricted free agency, maybe lit a fire under his ass. Either one, I mean, I'm happy with the results. The guy's rebounding like crazy. He's moving around, setting screens. He's making good passes, contributing a lot more as a defender in transition. It's not just like, give me the ball so I can go drive into a, elbow pull up two like all the time. And that's kind of all he brings. Um, he's going to be important. Like Al Horford, is it just going to be like, 20 minutes off the bench a night, no back to backs? Like, are they just saving him for the playoffs? Or like, how many minutes can they get out of him? And, um, also more importantly, like, we haven't seen a lot of Quentin Post. We haven't seen Trace Jackson Davis yet. Like, is there going to come a point where like being too small is going to hurt them? And do they need to like, maybe try to test those guys out? Uh, Another point we're going to see tonight against the Blazers is Moses Moody's back. So, is he going to jump back into the starting lineup over Kuminga? Like we saw last season where it was Steph, Pods, Moody, Jimmy, and Draymond is like the lineup they went to down the stretch. And if he doesn't, how does he look off the bench? Like, can he fit into that same role when he's not playing with Steph and Jimmy? Will Richard, who you brought up too, like the dude looks unbelievable. Like his hustle, like he's just like I don't know if you've seen this, but like he just runs around looking to get every rebound. And one thing I love is he just like runs into the lane and he like tenses up like he's about to jump, and then like the rebound goes the other direction, and he's just like, all right, I'm good. But like he's ready to get every rebound. He's ready to dive on the floor. He's cutting. He's moving off the ball. He just looks like a Kerr player that they really need. Um, like we've seen, it's been kind of a rough start for GP2. Like, is GP2 going to stick in the rotation? Is he going to get squeezed out? There's just so many questions. Like, I just go on and on about like the questions they have to answer about this rotation, and that's going to be important for me. Is like, does the depth continue to look like a positive going forward, and how do they kind of like set the hierarchy of this team when everyone's getting healthy? We haven't even mentioned like D'Anthony Melton, who's getting reevaluated in a week. Yeah, it was a small sample size, but he was like super impactful early last season, before the injuries took him out for the year. So, it's a good problem to have. You'd much rather have like, 14, like legitimate 14 deep, where it's like there are guys like Guy Santos, Trey Sexton Davis, D'Anthony Melton that haven't even like really touched the floor yet, that are like, rotation pieces on a lot of teams. And it's a good problem to have to figure out who stays, who sits. But, Kerr's work is cut out for him. Like good luck trying to figure out who sticks in this rotation, how to balance these lineups, who plays best with who. And that's gonna be what I'm monitoring the most. Is like how does this all get balanced out in these next few games, which are pretty important games early in the season.
Yeah, yeah, no, a great point, man. And I think it kind of just takes me back to last season when, obviously Jimmy wasn't in the fold yet, but the Warriors kind of had the same problem of having a lot of guys that could kind of fit in. And like you said, like the roster didn't really, or guys in the rotation didn't really know if they were going to play any given night. Some nights it was Moody, some nights it was Melton, some nights it was Paz, so that Jimmy Butler trade, like you said, just kind of gave everybody a role that they could kind of embrace. And I think that's going to be what, like, kind of just building off what you said of what I'm looking for this year, specifically at the two guard spot, because they've got a lot of guys that can step into that, that two guard role. Obviously, Moody looked really good in the preseason before he got hurt. Melton, we saw in that, 7, 8 game sample size before he got hurt last year. I think Will Richard is going to make a name for himself, and it really climbed the depth chart. You're already hearing all the stuff from Kerr, from Jimmy, from Steph. Like the kid knows how to play, and you can just see it so far on the first 2 games. And then guys like Pods, man, like Pods has had a tough start to the season. I think a big thing for what I've seen for Pods is shooting and lack thereof, and the consistency of it. So who's really going to take, grab that spot by the horns and really, make it their own. Because I think that's obviously, the one spot in the lineup and the rotation that I think is going to be in flux at a lot of time. You add in a guy like Seth Curry, who's going to be here in about 3 weeks too. Like it's just going to be a lot of guys in that, guard spot next to Steph, or in that second unit that, we're going to have to shake out. So, but yeah, I think for me, like I really like. I mean, I want to get your thoughts here on the that closing lineup last night of Steph, Kuminga, Butler, Draymond, and Horford. It just felt like I can't remember the last time a Warriors lineup looked, sizable enough on the defensive end, but also able to switch on everything. And then also on the offensive end, you were able to play five out. That first possession of the overtime period, Kuminga got to the rim with four guys on the perimeter, and it was pretty easy. He smoked the layup, but just the space that lineup gives you on the offensive end, and they were able to play that Murray Jokic 2-man game by switching everything. You're like Horford and Draymond were the ones that were switching back and forth on Murray and Jokic. And it just looked really, really smooth, man. And again, that comes down to, how many minutes is Horford going to play? He's not playing back to backs. So just your thoughts there on that one, because that lineup to me really felt like one of those, it's too early to call it a death lineup type of thing, but the we've seen, the Warriors teams in past years of championship teams that have had kind of that one lineup to go to when you need, to go on a run or win a game. And last night that lineup really kind of grabbed it and looked the part.
Yeah, people, I think there's a lot of misconception where people hear the word spacing and they always think threes. And I get it, like threes are the easiest and most common way to space the floor. Look at Al, for example. Like when Al is out in the corners, if you help off of him, that's like a 40% 3-point shooter out there. That's not going to work out for you too often. But then there's other ways of spacing. Like there's the Draymond way of spacing where he's going to catch the ball and he's going to find Steph and they're going to go into a dribble handoff and like, boom, now you got to deal with that. The Jimmy and Kuminga parts of it are interesting. I mean, one, Kuminga's like shot looks pretty good, and he might actually just like be a decent shooter. Um,
Changes everything, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, he would just better everything. Yeah, like, but um, the Jimmy, especially Jimmy, but a little bit Kuminga, the way that they space the floor that I love is, like if you want to help off of those guys because you're trying to contain Steph, um, they catch the ball and like if you give them a bunch of space, they can just eat that space up immediately. Like they're both really good in the mid range. They're both like great drivers. And Jimmy's obviously like a very developed playmaker on the drive, but Kuminga's had his moments where he's like, okay, I'm catching the ball, I'm getting into space, I'm making the defense rotate, and like I'm kicking out to find someone else, or like I'm gonna get into the lane and I'm gonna like do some cut. Like there was one possession that really stood out to me in that closing lineup where they're like cycling through their spacing and Jimmy cuts along the baseline into the corner that Kuminga's in, and Kuminga has to lift up to the wing. And instead of just lifting up to the wing and standing there, he's like, "Oh, nobody's guarding me!" Like because Steph was dribbling like to the baseline, so Kuminga just cuts in from the weak side into the empty space. Steph finds him, and he just like gathers and goes right up at Jokic, who is like in the process of like turning around. He's like, "Oh shit!" Like there's a guy behind me, and like as soon as he turns around, he's already like body bumped him, got the foul, goes to the line. So I think you spoke to like the defensive parts of that lineup, and that's such a good defensive group because Kuminga's still having his struggles off the ball, but like when you've got Jimmy, Draymond, and Al Horford behind you, it's like you can afford to get away with a lot of mistakes. And Steph's still doing his thing on the ball, so like you said, when you can switch everything and you can contain with that lineup, that works. But now that everyone is like a positive value add to Steph, and everyone is helping Steph in that lineup, it's got a lot of potential, man. And like I love guys like Moses, and I love guys like Pods. But the crazy part is that Kuminga looks like the best decision maker right now. He's obviously the best athlete of the three. Um, I mean, it really does just change the outlook for the season if they can find a way to like make him that guy who contributes in those lineups. And yeah, I think it was the Anthony Slater tweet where he was like, "It's just so crazy." Where it's the closing lineup was a 35-year-old, another 35-year-old, 37, 39, and then a 23-year-old.
23-year-old.
Yeah, it's just like, and he's kind of like shouting out the two timelines, and he's like, "Hey, maybe it's not the failure we thought it was."
Yeah,
So
dude. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, look, I know that like the whole, especially on the Kuminga thing, like it's obviously been damn near a civil war within Warriors, like the Warriors fans of, is he good? Is he not good? Keep him, trade him, whatever that is. And I feel like most people have kind of always been somewhere in the middle of like, we haven't seen it. So, let's get rid of him for somebody who has shown that they can do that. But it kind of just comes back to that, man. Like if Kuminga can be, this version that we've seen in the first couple games, like you said, it just changes the floor and the ceiling of this team. And he's their best athlete, and if he can guard guys, for full court and make those reads, making those passes, playmaking for other guys, and rebounding, all while becoming a better shooter and knocking down open threes, like you get to the point of like we don't have to make a move. We got the guy at home, that type of deal. Like, it really just changed the trajectory of everything. And so kind of just talking about what you want to see like for this team to continue to grow. Like all the other rotation things are nice, but I'm really going to be watching, JK very closely, of just the impact that he has and just like how well he can build off of the start. Cause that the thing with JK has always been like, can you do this consistently for 20, 30, 40, 50 games, whatever that is. And especially with an older team, nights like tonight against Portland, like it's good. I don't think we're going to rely on another Steph Curry 40 ball, which who knows? He owns that city as well. But you're gonna have to have young guys step up. Kuminga taking the scoring load off of Jimmy and Steph here and there. Like Moody coming in hitting shots, Pods coming in and making plays. Like it's good. It kind of just comes down to, we make a joke about that second timeline a lot, but for an older team, like you're going to need these young guys who are in kind of pivotal roles to step up. And, so far, Kuminga's done a great job. Pods, rough start. Hopefully he'll get, on that, train as well. But, overall, dude, like it's hard to not look at these first two games and be optimistic about what this team will look like in February, March, April, with the optionality to kind of make a move before the deadline as well. Like there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of guys on this roster that could be role players on other teams. You have good pieces here, so let's see how it all shakes out, man. But next three games, Chuck, you said it. It's kind of a brutal start for the Warriors. I mean, you're playing West opponents every night, every game at some point adds up. They all count for the same. They got Portland tonight, and then they got Memphis and the Clippers at home Monday and Wednesday, I believe, Monday, Tuesday. So
Monday, Tuesday, yeah.
Monday, Tuesday. Wow, yeah. So, 3 games, 4 nights, kind of in a back-to-back, stretch there. But three teams again. Portland in the preseason looks great. They've been a tough out so far against Minnesota. They played really well. Good young team. Memphis also, Jaws back. They've made some changes on their roster, but a team that is gets up to play the Warriors, and obviously the Clippers, who we saw them in the preseason. Over the last couple of years, the Clippers have kind of had the Warriors number as well. So what are you looking for in these next three games? What's your thoughts going into, another kind of tough stretch as the season kind of gets underway and things really start to take shape within the first, 5, 6 games of this year?
Yeah, well, like you said, it is a tough stretch. I mean, it's kind of crazy that they're going to, beginning part of the season, they get 4 games in 5 nights, while playing, I mean, out of Denver, Portland, Memphis, and Los Angeles. I mean, at least one of those teams is probably going to be out of the playoffs, like maybe two. Definitely looking at you, Memphis, but I it's tough. I mean, like Al is gonna have that means Al is gonna play
One out of three.
one out of the next three. Who knows which one they're gonna pick with Memphis and LA. I mean, my guess is they probably have him play LA, but
LA.
who knows there. That's gonna be tough. It might be a good time. Like, I mean, they might want to rest one of Steph or Jimmy in these games because I mean you never know. But what I want to see is don't like what we saw last year that I think was really frustrating was there was a lot of times where they'd play really good teams and they'd play up to their level, and then they'd play bad teams and they'd play down to their level. And I think the Blazers are really good. I actually kind of think Portland pulls it out tonight because Warriors coming off an overtime game, like real rough and tumble. And now you got to go play a team that's like, got all these like crazy athletes like Tumani and Shaden and Denny Avdia Klingon. It's just like, oh, fuck. Like they're just going to be out and running all the time. That's tough. But like, I especially have my eye on the Memphis game because I don't think Memphis is going to be very good this year. Like, can you just walk in and take care of business? Or is it going to be like silly turnovers, not playing transition defense, that kind of crap to like let them back in the game? Um, I mean, Clippers have a lot of good players, but also, they just got like belt to ass from the Utah Jazz on opening night. So I'm kind of side eyeing them a little bit. And I'm like, hey, like if we go into this and the Clippers are like, I don't know how many games they play, but if it's like they're like 1-2, 0-3, like can you go in and put the hurt on them even with the back to back? Like, so that's more what I'm focusing on is, the results are the results. If they, like lose 2 of the next 3, like they're still off to a positive start, all against good teams in the West. But it's how they lose and how they win. Like if they had lost the game last night, I'd be like, all right, there's not much you can do about Aaron Gordon just like having a historic night, but what can you control? Um, is gonna define this season. So I just want to see like good, clean, competitive efforts where they're not letting teams back into games. And if the guys just knock down more shots, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. And again, it is early in the season, so they're not going to go 82-0. They're going to drop some games here and there. But like you said, I think tonight is going to be interesting to see just on a back-to-back which young guys can step up. Obviously, Moody's back tonight. Horford obviously is not going to play. We'll see if anybody else kind of pops up on the injury slash rest report here before tip off in a couple hours. But I'm with you. I'm with you, man. Like they're playing three teams again. Like the West is going to be a bloodbath this year. There's arguably 13 good teams. You can even say all 15. It can beat you any given night. So when you have these matchups, kind of just seeing how you stack up, especially early in the season against teams like the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Grizzlies, the Blazers. So tonight will be fun. I think these next three games, especially with an 82 game sample size, like you're gonna have to take them in chunks. And obviously so far the Warriors have done good, but like you said, man, just like excited to kind of just see who steps up, what these rotations start to look like, what combinations start to work and click, and who really rises to the top of stepping up next to your main guys. But just exciting that Warriors basketball is back, man. It feels like they got something to play for this year. And yeah, let's go. Road to number five has started on a pretty good 2-0 beginning. Chuckster, before we get out of here, man, anything you got coming up? I know you've got a lot of content that's coming out now. So table's yours, brother.
Yes, sir. Well, if this kind of thing interests you, you can check me out on the DraftKings network, where I'm going to be writing a lot of stuff, doing basketball, baseball, hockey, football, a whole lot of stuff. So there's a little something for everyone on there. You'll also catch me on Celtics blog this season. Cool opportunity with the guys over at SB Nation to do a little Celtics coverage this year. So I'll be doing a lot of like weekly film breakdowns on the team. And of course, I'll be doing some stuff at Swish Theory as usual. My forever home there. I just earlier this week put out my full farm system rankings, which I think was like 9,000 plus words or something on like all of the top 100 young players in the NBA, how the teams stack up against one another. Um, that one was a lot of fun. It's a hefty read. Make sure you put aside some time for it if you're into that. But yeah, I got a lot of fun stuff coming for everybody, and of course, I'll always be here rocking with my boys on the Warriors Invitational.
Hey man, more Chuck words is better. So guys, go check that out. But yeah, as Chuck said, man, keep following us. We'll get the pod back in full swing this year as the season unfolds. Guests, everybody that wants to hop on, please shout us out, DM us, whatever it takes. We'd love to have more people on this year. And yeah, keep following us and go Dubs, man. We got a fun season ahead of us, and it's off to a very good start. So until the next episode, guys, peace.